Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit more technical analysis on this Bitcoin breakout that we've been following here for the last couple of weeks. Because if you guys remember, I've been talking about this Bitcoin breakout for the last couple of days here, and I've been discussing the potential outcomes of this Bitcoin breakout, whether it Bart Simpsons over and falls over on itself, or if it continues the rally to the upside. And today we have some more development on the market, around 24 hours or so, of course, of development here on the market that we need to discuss because Bitcoin has been trending downward here overnight and through the rest of yesterday. This is not a good thing for Bitcoin. Now, you could write this off as a flag with a downtrend of support there and a downtrend of resistance there and say Bitcoin's going to break bullish, but we'll be discussing all of that and more in today's video, guys. There's a lot of technical indicators that I want to show you that I didn't get to in yesterday's video that are nevertheless still important, so I do think we have a good one lined up for you guys in today's video. So if you enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button, but wait until the end of the video, see if you like the video, then go ahead and do that. Anyway, without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Bitcoin is currently trading around $3,959. And if you guys will remember back to yesterday's video, Bitcoin was trading up here around $4,005, give or take a few dollars, right up here. And I was talking about in that video how just because Bitcoin got above $4,000 does not mean that $4,000 has been broken. Now, that seems kind of weird. Bitcoin's above $4,000. Why would I say Bitcoin has not broken $4,000? Well, the reason I say that Bitcoin hasn't broken $4,000 is because all of these big evens, $4,000 being a very big even, have kind of a zone around them. Call it $50 plus or minus $4,000, and you're going to see levels of resistance within that region as well. Up here, all the way up to like $4,500 or so, you're still being affected somewhat by the level of resistance at $4,000. And you can go ahead and draw that with a rectangle right here and draw some kind of level of resistance right in this zone, with the closer you get to $4,000 being, of course, the strongest resistance. But there is still some resistance up here that is kind of residual and does have to do with the level of $4,000. Even if you break just a little bit through it, you're still continuing with $4,000, trying to drag you back down and people trying to sell up there. Because even though Bitcoin is trading at maybe $4,010, there are still people that are going to be taking profits at the $4,000 level and then thus driving the market to the downside, which is really one of the main things that causes resistance. So watch out for that. Sometimes even though it looks like you've broken through the level, you haven't. And that's why I warned of that yesterday, even though I was slightly more bullish than bearish in yesterday's video. And that has probably changed in today's video. Like I said, we'll be getting to that later on. I want to dive more in detail with that. You do want to be careful about Bitcoin breaking above $4,000 and just calling it good from there, because as we can see, Bitcoin, quote unquote, broke $4,000 and then started moving back to the downside. So it's always a little bit more complicated than you think it is. Watch out for that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the scenario that I laid out in yesterday's video. I talked about in yesterday's video about how after this rally here, Bitcoin was probably going to do one of three things. It was going to trend upwards, it was going to trend sideways, or it was going to trend downwards. And we've gone ahead and picked the latter, that being Bitcoin trending to the downside. And I said that this was a bad thing. And the reason I said that this was a bad thing is that recently, when Bitcoin breaks out of consolidation patterns, whenever it breaks out and then trends to the downside, like we saw right over here, when Bitcoin was trending to the downside, we broke bearish. Right over here, we traded sideways and we broke bearish. I would have liked to have seen Bitcoin break out and then trade to the upside when it's trading sideways. I would have liked to see it do something like that instead of something like this. And someone pointed out in the comment section that, Jeb, actually what you're talking about, Bitcoin trending downwards, is called a bull flag. And you're absolutely right. I know it's called a bull flag. This is a bull flag, and this is somewhat of an indicator that Bitcoin could be continuing to move up from here. There is a very strong bullish scenario right now that Bitcoin breaks out of this trading channel that it's in, this descending trading channel, this bull flag that it's in, and starts moving to the upside. That does happen sometimes, but one of the reasons that I'm concerned about that is because of the ratio of the size between this bull flag and the rally. A lot of times a bull flag is going to be about this size, but normally they're going to be a lot smaller. A lot of times you're not going to see a bull flag this big in proportion to a rally that large. And I'm concerned about Bitcoin falling over here because it's lost some of its momentum. Now, with that said, it's very possible that Bitcoin breaks out here. Like I said, we're going to dive into some technicals and get into percentages and predictions later on in the video. But I'm laying the foundation for the video here. We do want to watch out for this because even though Bitcoin trending downwards here is a bull flag and this is a bullish sign, you do see this happen a lot. Bitcoin trends downward. It kind of gives the bears a chance to reset. It does happen, and there is a good chance we break bullish. It is also concerning because of the kind of things that Bitcoin has been doing recently. So with all that out of the way, let's start diving into the technicals and start trying to get some more of a evidence-based idea of where the market is going to go. Now, one of the things I want to bring up is, of course, the MACD and a couple moving averages. I want to talk about volume. I want to talk about a lot of different things. So let's go ahead and dive into them. One of the things I want to mention is that over the last 48 hours or so, or 36 hours or so, Bitcoin's MACD has been bearish. Bitcoin crossed bearish at 8 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time on the 16th of March. That would have been yesterday. That's right around the time I recorded yesterday's video, a little bit after, actually. Bitcoin had crossed bearish, and I think I talked about that in yesterday's video down here on the hourly chart. Now, Bitcoin looks like it's probably going to be crossing bullish again in today's video. That depends totally on what Bitcoin does today, though. If Bitcoin starts trending to the downside, we're probably going to see Bitcoin's MACD curve down here below the 0 level on the histogram and start moving to the downside and exacerbating the trend that we're already in. So there's a couple different scenarios that will play out there, but that's one thing that you want to be looking at for the duration of today is what this MACD is doing on the hourly chart, because this really is an hourly movement. I did not mean to click that. This really is an hourly movement. If we look out here on the 4 hourly, it's not quite as visible, but out on the 4 hourly, we're also looking at a potential important signal as well. Bitcoin looks like it's going to be crossing bearish on the 4 hourly MACD as well. So we have both of these intervals contradicting each other. We have the 4 hourly that looks like it may be about to cross bearish, and we have the hourly that looks like it's about to cross bullish. And this kind of brings up the question of, well, which interval do I do my technical analysis on, the hourly or the 4 hourly? I get this question sometimes in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, so I'll probably be doing a video on that in the future. And I get this question in the comments sometimes. I think I even had someone email me about this once. Which time interval do you use? Well, the 4 hourly and the hourly chart are both important charts because a lot of people use the hourly chart and a lot of people use the 4 hourly chart. What I like to do when I'm trying to decide which interval is better is I like to rank order the important intervals by their importance. So the way that I would typically rank the time intervals, depending on the chart, this is very dependent on the chart, but for Bitcoin, I would say that the most important interval for Bitcoin is the daily chart, and then in a very, very close second, the hourly chart. After that, probably the 4 hourly chart, then the weekly, then the monthly, then down to the minute charts. That's about how I would order the importance of the time intervals. So with that said, I would say that the 1 hourly chart is slightly more important than the 4 hourly chart, partially because more people are going to be doing their trading and thus looking at technical indicators on the hourly chart. Some of the people that would be looking at the 4 hourly chart might be looking at the 3 or the 2, so it's kind of spreading out the power that the 4 hourly would have. The hourly chart is, in my opinion, the most important sub-day interval to be looking at. And with that said, it does look like the Bitcoin MACD on the hourly chart is about to be crossing bullish. Now, with that said as well, that is not to discount the 4 hourly cross on the MACD. Just because I would say the 4 hourly is slightly less important than the hourly chart does not in any way discount or completely alleviate the importance of a cross on the 4 hourly MACD. It is still important, but I would be doing my technical analysis also because of the short interval here. This is only about a 24-hour period. I would be doing my TA here on the hourly chart. Just kind of wanted to throw that in there because some of you guys don't, I mean, it is hard to understand sometimes or hard to decide what interval you want to use. I get that. We all struggle with that, so that is something I want to talk about. Anyway, a little bit of a tangent there, but let's keep going. I want to continue talking about technicals that are staring Bitcoin in the face right now. Of course, if we look back out to the daily chart, the daily MACD has turned bullish, so we're getting another contradictory signal there, but this signal is not really going to have a whole lot of impact on what we're talking about here in the hourly chart because, I mean, you can't even see what we've been doing technical analysis on all day. One thing I also want to mention is that the stochastic RSI is moving to the upside into overbought territory on many different time frames. It's moving down on the 4 hourly because the 4 hourly just likes to be different, but on the hourly chart, it is still moving to the upside. As we can see here, we may see some kind of cross here. It's possible that the stochastic RSI kind of falls over, does this, and then starts moving back up again if Bitcoin does actually go ahead and start moving back to the upside over the next 12 hours or so. That kind of scenario is very possible. Now, I want to start looking at moving averages and other kinds of technical analysis, not just oscillators as well. One thing I do want to point out is that here on the hourly chart, the 50 hourly is providing support to Bitcoin. As we can see, Bitcoin is currently sitting on this level. Watch out for this as a level of resistance. It also looks like we're under the 20 exponential moving average, or excuse me, the 20 simple moving average, and the 20 exponential moving average is kind of sitting right around here. We were getting support on the 20 EMA a little while ago, but we no longer really are. So just because we've broken below that, that is kind of a bearish sign, but not really. On the hourly chart, I wouldn't give this as much credit as I would on like the daily chart of the 4 hourly. Watch out for that 50 moving average, though. If Bitcoin breaks below that, we'll probably see a decent-sized red candlestick. Maybe like a 0.5% candle. Probably nothing major, 0.5% to a percentage, but it is something you want to look out for as the day progresses. No, I don't want to go to that chant. No, I don't want to click these things in the top right. I can't aim today, guys. I'm sorry. Anyway, if we go back out to the 4-hourly and we continue looking at our moving averages, a lot of them are providing support down here so that if Bitcoin does fall over, we're going to be able to get support on them. I don't believe the 20 EMA is up close to us just yet. It is right below us, though. We do want to stay above that. You guys know how much I love the 20 EMA. As we start getting out to the daily chart, and especially the weekly chart, you're going to see some moving averages that I am much more concerned about. Out on the daily chart, a couple of the ones that I want to talk about are the 20 exponential moving average and the 20 simple moving average. Both of these moving averages are very similar, and they tend to be very close to each other, and they are both sitting below Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin is below them, and if Bitcoin does fall over here, Bitcoin does have a strong level of support that it can go to. It has that. It has the emotional backing of these two moving averages. They're cool people. You should press F to pay respects in the comment section down below. No, but if Bitcoin falls over here, Bitcoin does have some levels of support that it can go to where it can get emotional support and aid and some kind of pill. I don't know. They put you on all kinds of pills nowadays. It's going to get some support down here if it falls over. And that's one of the things I'm concerned about is Bitcoin falling over, of course. And if Bitcoin does fall over, it's probably going to start moving towards those 20 exponential moving averages, and it's probably the 20 exponential moving average and the 20 simple moving average, which are sitting somewhere around right here and right there, respectively. If Bitcoin starts falling over, watch them for levels of support. Those are both going to be very important levels of support for Bitcoin. Now, moving on out to the daily chart. Excuse me, not the daily chart, the weekly chart, there is a moving average that I very much want to show you guys, and that would be the 20 simple weekly moving average. I haven't really talked a whole lot about this moving average. I have talked about it in the past because it was important like 8 months ago, but I haven't talked about it much recently because it's just been kind of curving down here and running down to meet us ever since we broke below $6,000, and it's finally starting to catch up with us. As you can see, we're currently sitting just below the 20 exponential moving average. We almost came up and touched it. We missed touching it by about $50 or so. We ran up to around $4,020, give or take a few pennies, and we saw Bitcoin's 20 exponential moving average this week curve down to right around $4,070 to $4,080. This is going to be some kind of level of resistance if we start moving to the upside again. And like I said, later on in the video, we'll talk about scenarios for Bitcoin and where I think Bitcoin is going, whether that be to the doctor or to the bank. We'll discuss that in a second, but if we do start moving to the upside, that is going to be one of the levels of resistance that I'm going to be looking out for. And one more thing that I really wanted to mention on the weekly chart, because I want to talk about this. I made an entire video on this. If I remember, I'll link that in the top right. Would be the weekly stochastic RSI. I made an entire video on this because every time that Bitcoin's stochastic RSI on the weekly has crossed bearish, every single time that has happened in the last 2 years, there has been a Bitcoin crash and a Bitcoin reversal from a bull trend to a bear trend within the span of 2 to 3 weeks of that cross happening. That has happened every single time. I can show you guys that. If we look here with our crosses, we can see that Bitcoin right here, Bitcoin, we saw a bearish cross on the MACD, or excuse me, the stochastic RSI right here, boom, crash in Bitcoin. Stochastic RSI cross, boom, crash. Stochastic RSI cross, boom, $20,000 all-time high. Stochastic RSI cross, boom, the $8,000 pullback. Go back and watch my very first video I ever uploaded to this channel for information on that. Bitcoin stochastic RSI cross back over here in September of 2017, boom, crash from $5,000, boom, crash from $3,000, boom, crash from $1,300, etc., etc., etc. That's a very important technical indicator, the weekly stochastic RSI, and it does have predictive power. Now, I have talked about problems that I have with it sometimes. Sometimes it's too much of a lagging indicator, but it is still indicative of something, and it is important to keep an eye on this. Stochastic RSI can stay up here in overbought territory for weeks or even months out here on the weekly chart, but it's unlikely. That's not the kind of thing that normally happens. This is a very bearish indicator, and it's one that I'm keeping a very close eye on because next week we're probably going to see that cross. We're probably going to see next week the blue line is going to be below the green line or the red line or the brown line. Guys, I'm colorblind. I have no idea. The blue line, the top line, is probably going to cross the line below it, and that is going to be very bad for Bitcoin. We'll see what happens there. If Bitcoin has a lot of bullish momentum, it might be able to shrug that off, but we don't want to ignore that. Now, with all of that technical indicator in mind, let's go ahead and start making some predictions about what Bitcoin is going to do here and start talking about scenarios based on our technical indicator. Let's go ahead and do that. Where do we think Bitcoin is going over the next couple of days? Well, guys, if you'll remember back to yesterday's video, I was slightly more bullish than bearish, and sometimes I have to remind people that the reason I sometimes change my opinion from day to day is because the market changes from day to day, guys. I can't have the same opinion in two different markets. You have to change your opinion on the market when the market changes. I will never apologize for changing my mind on like from one day to the next if there's something going on in the chart that I didn't know about the first day that has changed in the duration in the time between the first day and the second day. That is the way technical analysis works, and if you don't like it, then you have to go and do fundamental analysis or something, because that's the way this works, guys. And while I was slightly more bullish in yesterday's video, I did outline the possibility of Bitcoin moving into this descending flag here, and how that might be some kind of a warning sign of Bitcoin falling over. Now, with that said, like I said, there is still the flag idea that Bitcoin flags out here and moves to the upside. And that's valid. That's very valid. That's not something that's uncommon in markets. It's very common for markets to trend downwards after an uptrend and then break bullish. That does happen a lot. And if we were to see that happen, I'll go ahead and show you what the price target for that would be. If we go ahead and draw this flag with our downtrend of support there and our downtrend of resistance right here, then let's go ahead and draw that a little better. If we were to do that and we draw our flag from right back over here, we draw the flag and then we pull that back up. You guys know how to do flags. We pull that up, our price target would be around $4,500. Excuse me, around $4,100. And that would be putting us right up against some levels of resistance that we talked about earlier. That is very much a scenario, and one that I will continue to talk about here in a second. That being said, with all the technicals I've shown you, including MACD, including the moving averages that we have as levels of resistance, including especially that weekly stochastic RSI cross, I would consider myself slightly more bearish than bullish on Bitcoin. And a lot of that's because Bitcoin is trending to the downside. And even though Bitcoin can break bullish here, and even though that is a bull flag in the making, at this point I would consider myself slightly more bearish than bullish. Part of that being because since we're not moving to the upside, we don't really have a good argument for why we should ignore the weekly stochastic RSI cross. That's one of the main things I was talking about. In yesterday's video, I didn't mention the stochastic RSI cross on the weekly chart, because if we continue moving to the upside, then we could essentially try and ignore that stochastic RSI cross for a couple weeks and then put it off and then worry about it later. But if Bitcoin's going to be moving to the downside and has bearish momentum behind it, when we see that cross, which will be happening in the next couple of days because the weekly candlestick is going to be closing, when we see that cross, we're going to see a lot of bearish price. We're going to see the bears exacerbate their lead that they may already have. So if Bitcoin starts moving to the downside here, then of course that stochastic RSI cross is going to hurt them. But guys, I'm not putting my weight in like really heavy in one side or the other. I do still think there's a very good argument for the bulls, excuse me. Bitcoin has just broken bullish. I do think the momentum is ever so slightly still in the favor of the bulls, even though the technicals are not necessarily showing it. I do still think that they have momentum, and I do still think there's a decent chance that Bitcoin breaks bullish out here. But with all that said, I want to keep in mind those bearish technicals that we talked about as well, and there is that chance that we fall over sideways or to the downside and we bar it down. Tell me in the comment section down below what you guys think is going to happen. Do you guys think Bitcoin is going to rally from here? Do you think Bitcoin is going to do that bull flag that I talked about with the downtrend of support right there and the downtrend of resistance right there and break bullish? Guys, I'm not discounting that. That's probably a 45% chance of happening, to be totally honest. There's maybe a 55% chance that Bitcoin breaks bearish here. There's a good chance of both of these things happening. But I want you to tell me in the comment section down below, what do you think? Do you think Bitcoin's going to break bearish, or do you think Bitcoin's going to break bullish? I would love to hear your opinions. And also, especially, tell me in the comment section down below what you think about that inevitable Bitcoin weekly stochastic RSI cross. Tell me what you think about that. What kind of impacts do you think that's going to have on the market? I would be interested, as always, to hear your opinions in the comment section down below. And guys, before we wrap this video up, I do want to mention that the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy sale is now over. It was open for 5 days and a ton of people joined. We had dozens of people join CT2A last week, and I'm very pleased with that. You guys do seem to be very much enjoying it. I've had a ton of people in the comment section, in the Discord server, via email, and in the comment section of the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. I've had loads of you guys tell me how much you enjoy the content. I've had nothing but praise for the videos, and I really do appreciate that, guys. It warms my heart to see you guys enjoying something, especially when you pay for it, because when you pay for something, you have much more room to be critical, and people still haven't been critical whatsoever. I've had some amazing responses, and I'm very pleased with that. And I'm also very pleased with you guys who watch the free content here. Just because we have the course doesn't mean that I'm ever going to stop doing YouTube. It doesn't mean that I care any less about you guys here over on YouTube. I love every single one of you, and I really appreciate all the support that you guys give me. Every last one of you. I really do appreciate it. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for today's video. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.